All right. This is a panel basically about styles. So I guess now this is a roundtable discussion about styles.
How lucky we found a round table.
There you go.
No, we don't talk about King Arthur, though.
Jim and I do more generalized work because we do like superheroes and fantasy characters. Scott does more personalized work and works directly with the people. So this is really a nice, colorful blend of styles. So for me, I've done comic work and I've done film work. I've worked on The Walking Dead. I've worked on a couple of the Marvel movies. I worked on the original Heavy Metal. And then this is Jim Taylor, who's a partner with me in Recollection Magazine, which is a Golden Age book. And tell them the stuff that you've done.
A lot of independent work. I did some work for DC for a Green Lantern story, educational materials, all sorts of. If they need it to be drawn, I'm willing to do it, except for portraits and landscapes.
He's a fantastic penciler.
And I paint portraits and landscapes. Isn't that fun? So my name is Scott Hamilton. I've been a professional illustrator
for
going
us.
on 26 years now. I do started out with logo design and graphic design, web design, and started with caricatures about 20 years ago, and I still do all that.
That's one of the most valuable texts.
When I draw caricatures, though, it's not your standard caricature. It's more of a caricature with minimal exaggeration, but big head, little body, a lot of colors. So that's what I do now.
The most important thing that you got to learn about style is during the 1930s, artists came from all over. You'll find that there was a lot of artists that were involved with circus posters, which was the first American strong advertising that there was. And then it moved on to a certain form of advertising that was food, non-food. And what that means is you'll see these beautiful and ornate cigar boxes, the beer bottles, the wine bottles, etc. No computers back then, obviously. Everything was done by hand. As a matter of fact, my great-grandfather used to do the pressings and the gold leaf on the doors where like they would put the names on the glass and everything for office stores or whatever, and then cry every time he had to razor blade them off to put someone else's name on. It came down to, there were two forms of art. You either got paid or you got satisfaction. Comic book art came along, and a lot of these guys, no matter how grumpy they were, got both. And it was the fat Ed Asner type smoking a cigar in the back room while everybody was going nuts in the front room trying to work on art. And then he'd come out and be like, all right, who's done? We need this panel done, and blah, blah, blah. And,
need another page.
Yeah, we need another page, and blah, blah, blah. And the work was very, like I said with us, it was a very generalized thing. We need an alien. Somebody draw someone with tentacles. That makes me think of fish. And then they'd go on to something else, and blah, blah, blah. And we were just talking about this yesterday. There was an episode, you got to look it up, fantastic episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where Sisko, who was the captain, imagined that he was a character back in the 50s during the pulp stories. And JG, who's upstairs, was the artist for the book, and he had drawn the picture. And what it was is the artists were the predominant storytellers for comic books. It was not the writers. Everybody thinks, I wrote a story, I need an artist. No, writers were the trash. And what they would do is they'd say, drew this picture of this beautiful alien girl, and the editor would be like, that's pretty good, I like that, okay. So
we can get a story for that.
Yeah, we need a story for that. And they'd be like, I got a robot. And some guy would be like in the back, he goes, I do robots. Okay, that's yours. Don't give me crap. And then they'd go to the next one, and they'd go to the next one. But the writers were the low end. And the artists used to get incredible work out of it. But it was a unique style. It was a unique formation. And I'll tell you what's a good, cute little story. It was something that you said yesterday. Look at the top of my banner and then look at this other picture. You should tell them that. That was a really good one about style.
So on my banner, if you look at my banner downstairs, at the very top there's a 4-group caricature. And it's from 2010. So the thing about art, And people say, oh, what's the trick about art and getting better? The trick about art and getting better is draw all the time. That's the only tip. You don't need to go to college, just draw, and draw everything. So I drew this picture 2010, very first group caricature. And if you look at it, and then look at the ones below it, completely different. Because they were all flat, colorless, just blah. And now, you know, I draw a 3/4 view with tones and just completely different in 4 years. That's my progression.
And you never stop learning.
Right. You
Never.
And even today I'm drawing JG as Martok, and I've never done 7 or 8 different tones in a face before, but I'm really going all out on this piece.
That's beautiful too.
So you just try different things. You don't need to go to school and learn. Just if you want to learn something, grab, you know, if you want to learn pastels, grab them and use them. And try different things, and eventually you get to the point where, yeah, that's what I want to do. But I'm not done learning. You'll always, you know, life drawing, go out and draw people in the nude. They have groups you can do that in. That's the best thing for drawing a figure. You know, copying from comic books, yeah, that's great. Copying from pictures, yeah, that's great. But actually live drawing in front of somebody,
Yeah.
first thing it does, it gives you a kind of a feel of gestural drawing, which are just very quick shapes and lines. But then you're drawing an actual human body, how muscles and bones and everything bend and interact. Drawing from life is the best tip I can give you. If you're drawing a pose,
Take a sample.
if you're drawing a pose or you're drawing clothing, no artist in the business today doesn't use reference at some point. Adam Hughes, Alex Ross, always use reference.
And
Always.
Alex Ross's work was featured at the Academy Awards.
Yeah,
and it was amazing.
Alex Ross is amazing, and he
Yeah.
hires models and dresses them and puts their clothing in certain positions and draws paints
right.
from those pictures that he takes. So he doesn't just go, oh, I know how to draw a shirt. He actually has a person in a shirt. Don't feel afraid to use reference. I've got books at home that this thick of guns, motorcycles,
Yes.
cars, buildings.
Which was the next thing I was going to get to. If you look at the original Superman TV series, Reeves was just iconic. I mean, he looked the part. He was the part.
Yep.
But he was hired based on his acting work and his likeness to the character. Later, they were schooling by using those films towards the artist later. He was a very iconic all the way up until the John Byrne era.
Yeah.
Then John Byrne gave him a little bit more muscle, a little bit more definition, on and on and on. Reference is a giant key, just like you were saying. It's amazing. I have so many magazine clippings. I scan them now and make cheat sheets out of them. And I was good friends with the late Gil Kane, who did Green Lantern, the Atom, on and on and on. And he would do what was called swipe books, which is something I'm going to get into at the other panel later. He would have he would draw a picture of a hand, and he would say, "Wow, I really like that." So he'd trace it onto like wax paper or something, stick them in photo albums. Photo albums all of hands, photo albums all of feet. I need a cheetah pose, boom, then write it in. He did it originally, he does it again. And it was working, his style developed so fluidly that anatomy, he could draw something with his eyes closed. And it was just the most amazing thing. Anatomy can be a good structural point when it comes to style, or it can be bad. You could do stick figures and make them funny on the web. You can do chibis, you can do caricatures, you can do straight. Anatomy is literally one of your strongest muscles. Learn about it, whether you disregard it or not. When it comes to anatomy and reference, this is the person you have to talk to right here. He's literally, Jim is a perfectionist when it comes to anatomy. Tell them about some of the stuff.
Once you learn your anatomy, that's when you can actually start breaking the rules and trying to change things around, or actually doing shortcuts and cheats.
Exactly.
Okay, but you have to learn the anatomy first before you know what you can get away with. As far as reference, they were talking about it. Anybody who owns, a smartphone or a tablet or a computer, you have reference to anything. And sometimes I'll see people, they'll put up art at different sites and everything, and they'll go, gee, that battleship you were drawing looks pretty good, but it's not exact. Oh, I couldn't get any reference. I don't have any way to get access to reference. It's like you're posting on a website, so you have the internet. All you got to do is put in Google battleship pictures. They all come up. So you've got reference for anything. that you want to draw. That doesn't matter if it's a spaceship, to a farm scene, to gee, I want to draw a lantern, in a western scene. You can find it on there.
And you can make your own
Wrap it
reference
up.
too. One of our good friends is Dave Ryan, and
Yep.
he's a very popular Marvel and DC artist. He does a lot of sketch cards now. As a matter of fact, he got me back into sketch cards because for years I wouldn't do them.
It's his fault?
And he now posts, you know how you do the Throwback Thursday on Facebook?
Yeah.
He now posts pictures of him wearing a Punisher shirt when he was 18 years old, this big stocky guy, and he's like going like this in pictures, and people would shoot pictures, and he goes, that was my first Punisher cover, and blah, 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 and he'd model it after himself. And, spaceship, people would put like one dish on top of another, and they'd take pictures with the light hitting it so that there was like shading in different sides, and they'd go off. Reference is gigantic, it is. But anatomy, like he was saying, it's customizable. Learn the best part of anatomy, play with it for your style.
And
So
if you don't know how to draw a fist, like if I want to draw a fist doing a certain, like my business card. So these fists, I took pictures of my hand in those poses with markers in my hand, and that's where I got the reference from. Right there.
probably the first selfies came from.
Yeah. But when you draw,
With or without the duck face thing going on.
when you draw bodies and you draw hands, the hardest things to draw are faces, hands, and feet,
Yeah.
And hair.
and hair.
That's why Scott got rid of it.
And hair. That's right. So if those are the hardest things to draw for you, draw those things more than everything else. Draw pages of hands and feet. Spend like an hour just drawing hands. Different poses. Like I said, take your own hand. Do different things, weird things.
And whenever you draw stuff like a bowl of fruit or whatever, change the light source.
Yeah,
First
the
it's like
flashlight.
this, then it's like this,
Yeah.
then it's like this. Learn that shadow is your best friend. Because no matter how you
It can
pencil,
hide a lot of sins.
yes, if you pencil, you're actually inking your pencils if you give strong penciling.
Yeah.
If you're going to ink after, you go light, then you go heavy, then you do the inking process, etc. Everybody's different. That's the thing about style, which is what this is all about. Everything's about style. I know people who can literally take a pen, ink pen, draw a whole book straight from the beginning all the way to the end. Like Ernie Chan was like that. He'd draw something straight from the beginning to the end, and the Colan brothers do the same thing. And it's amazing. Like, it's just amazing. Some of the old DC stuff was literally like pen. And if you see the notes from Jack Kirby, I was very fortunate to know him for a short time. His stuff would be like, I drew all this stuff in, whatever, and Stanley would be like, well, this is good, but I need to do this. And then Jack would be like, just take it, but he had...
Need some more Martians in there,
Right.
Jack, is what I would like.
Yeah.
He had great stuff. You could do it. You can do it. And you were saying that yesterday, which was a fantastic point, taking... doing the thumbnails and then blowing them up.
So what I do is I do what's called scribble sketching. I don't do stick figures. I scribble my figures and do multiple lines and just throw blurbs on the page. You can't even tell what it's going to be. But then I go back in and I fill in the lines that I like. And with my caricatures, I don't usually put detail on my pencils at all, except for the face. I just scribble and then I go straight to ink. But that takes a long time to learn. One thing that's good about reference, though, we're talking about action figures these days, because action figures will have 32 points of articulation. So you can pose them however you want them and then shine a flashlight or a lamp on them and take pictures of angles.
They're better than those wooden dolls.
Yeah.
I
Much
really
better,
do.
much better.
I really do find that better.
So if you're looking to draw lighting and stuff, definitely learn how to draw lighting in your pictures, because it gives depth to what you're drawing. But draw every possible configuration of a light. Put a one figure pose and then shine it from every different direction and draw that. And that way you learn how light reflects, and you might have lights from 2 different sources or 3 different sources, and it just adds to your work so much.
Real quick, I saw something that was... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say 2 things that I just want to say. If you're not really sure about how to draw something, even with reference, you're still having a hard time with it, whether it's a foot or a hand or anything, please never hide behind that's my style.
Yeah.
It just
that's
means
true.
you don't know you just don't know how to do it yet, and you need help. Maybe you need some instruction or a critique from an artist that you really like or anything. I really hate when people say, "Oh, that's just my style."
Yeah.
No, it just to me, when somebody says that, it's like, so what you're really telling me is, I don't know how to draw it, so I just faked it.
It's
and
straight out lazy.
Hope it's
Style is a matter of confidence.
Yeah.
If you're confident with the way the hand looks, that is your style.
Yes.
It's not an excuse.
Yes.
So you don't have to put it behind.
Liefeld is perfect. You'll see a lot of Liefeld art where there's a lot of smoke at the bottom.
Yeah.
Or things blocking it.
Or the legs that just seem to go on forever
Yeah.
off the
Yeah,
pad.
7 or 8 panels. Where the heck?
He's actually, I will say though, he's a really nice guy in person.
Yeah.
He drew covers for a couple of my books years ago, and I talk to him still. He is a really nice person, and that is his style though. And when you look at, we can all judge because we do it professionally also. Now, if you really look at his real sketchbooks and the new stuff that he's doing,
It's a lot better.
yeah. But again, even if he's a slow learner, never stop learning.
Yeah.
So.
That the other thing I was just going to say is that if you take your stuff around to have somebody look at it, never take that critique as a personal thing.
Right. It's not
A
against
lot of
you.
people they internalize it and they personalize it.
Yeah.
Oh, they're saying I'm a terrible person and I like drown kitties in the river. And no, they're just looking at the work, going,
That's right.
"This looks really good, but you might still want to work on this, 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 or this." And even if they give you a long list, shopping list of stuff that you should work on, never take it personally because they're looking at the work. They're not looking at you as a person and going, "Oh, you're a terrible person and we don't like you and you don't bathe often." And no, they're just saying well, your backgrounds need a little tweaking because your perspective isn't correct on it. Look for your horizon lines and everything, and just sort of accept it and go, "Okay, that's something I got to work on." And don't walk away feeling bad. They're not saying you're a terrible person. A lot of people will take those crits and they'll be like, "Oh man, I'm going to go and break all my pencils and never draw another thing again." Don't take it that way.
And you know what? On the reverse side, you go to somebody big like Ed McGuinness or Neil Adams, and you show them your work. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Art's the same way.
Yep.
It's all distinctive and personalized, no matter who you talk to. They're going to tell you they don't like your nose, they don't like your ear, they don't like this, you need whatever. Pick up one of their comic books and criticize one of their works and say, "I don't like the way you draw that foot. That really looks bad, and that sucks," and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be the same thing in reverse.
Also realize their styles too. Like for example,
Exactly.
you were mentioning like Neil Adams and Alex Ross. If your particular style of art is more anime type based, you wouldn't take it to them because
Right.
they're just going to look at it and go, "Well,
This is a business of Legos. Things have to fit together or they never will.
yeah."
So it's true. I would take his stuff and I would show it to a Neil Adams. I would take something that you would do and show it to somebody who does a more lighthearted work or chibi
Like a
work
Tom
or
Richmond or
caricature
Sam
work.
Viviano from Mad Magazine.
Right. You have to do. It's a custom fit,
Right.
and because we'll look at work and we'll give a critique and we'll say that's really good and blah blah blah. But I'm not going to bring my motorcycle to a refrigerator repairman. That's just the way it is.
Jim
So-
Lee,
Yeah, but
when
the
he,
refrigerator guy is a lot cheaper.
Jim Lee got multiple rejection letters.
Yes.
He also went to conventions and people ripped his work apart.
Mm-hmm.
Said, you need to improve this. He came back, he worked his butt off for a year, came back a year later and got hired on the spot.
And the funny thing was, his first official work that he got printed was from Rich Buckler in Solson Comics years and years ago. And Rich is a great friend, and he is one of these guys that he's very old style, very gritty. He's been accused of one thing or another. He just is one of the tightest artists when it comes to pushing a book. He can push a cover. He can push the insides of a book. He looked at Jim's stuff and he's like, "This would be perfect for this." And because he was a lot more vocal years ago, "This would be perfect for this." And he got him to do Samurai Santa, where the Santa Claus is outside of a Chinese restaurant and beats up these guys in an alleyway. And it's like, totally not Jim Lee. And then by Jim Lee. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. That's pulling somebody way out of their medium.
Yeah.
But he recognized one point, like looking at a star. He recognized one thing and pulled out style.
Right.
And he did that with many artists. Rich discovered Lee. He helped Liefeld get started. He was with Mark Texiera, who did incredible work on Ghost Rider at the time,
Yes.
etc. But that's the thing about confidence versus excuse.
Yeah.
You know, when you do your work, have you ever looked and said, like scratched it out and said, "I don't like," and then start again?
Most definitely. Not often. Normally my work is, even my illustration work is rough pencils, straight to ink, straight to color. I don't have multiple sketches. In my head, I do my thumbnails.
Yeah.
And in my head, I pick out the one I want to draw. And that's when I put on paper. Style, you say, oh, how did you get your style? You just draw. So everybody here knew who Alan Davis is? Comic books, Marvel, DC.
The nail.
Alan
Great
Davis.
book.
Alan Davis is a legend. Okay, he's phenomenal. Brian Hitch mugged Alan Davis's style for a long time. So when you draw his books, it would look like Alan Davis drew it. But he evolved into what he is now. His artwork is completely different from Alan Davis. Same thing with Nick Bradshaw. Nick Bradshaw draws X-Men right now. He mugged his style off of Art Adams and evolved into kind of Art Adams, but now Nick Bradshaw. Same thing with Phil Jimenez.
Yeah.
Phil
George
Jimenez
Perez.
was,
Mimicked
was a
George.
Perez clone. You couldn't tell the difference. Now he's evolved again into his own style. So you can copy other people and use the techniques that you like. You know, I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then combine them. And as you practice and draw and get better, which is always, your style will develop itself. You don't have to work on developing your style. It just happens.
And this goes back years. Rich Buckler was hired to take over for Jack Kirby for Fantastic Four, and he was Jack Kirby. I mean, everything he did was Kirby. Then when he became Kirby's editor at Archie Comics for Blue Ribbon Comics, he would tell Kirby, he'd be like, I don't like that hand. Kirby'd be like, just take it. Yeah. Now, I see some books. Did you guys bring some art for us to look at?
All my good stuff's actually
And also,
downstairs.
too, when you come downstairs, grab my business card if you have ever. And any art questions, you just email me anytime you want. Call me. My phone number's on there. I'd be happy to talk to you anytime.
All three of us are accessible. We'd love to help. So we'd like to.
Because I teach kids how to draw. So teaching kids is the same as teaching adults. It's the same lessons, the same advice.
You just have to go to the bathroom a lot less often.
Right. Right. And you don't eat glue.
Well, it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, sure.
Would you like a cookie? Just take it.
So actually, probably
Let's
better.
see.
Well, probably better.
Okay, I'm kind of a Harvey Dent, so
Well,
I
Open
have,
up to
You're Harvey Dent?
Open up to a piece that you'd confidently like to display. Let's see something.
Oh no! I have a professional where I'm trained medical illustration.
Oh,
Oh,
I know about that.
I
know
got
about that.
asked to do that. I
So-
couldn't get into
Ooh.
it. That takes a special kind of illustrator.
I knew that asshole.
I know about that. One of my good friends that I do
Colin.
work
That's
with is Dan Gorman, and he does medical illustration in Ohio, and he does it for courtroom work.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how fast he does it and accurate.
Can you imagine that
He'll
in
sit
a
at-
court-
he'll
in a
sit-
courtroom? Show me your spleen.
Yeah, he'll sit at like a table at a convention, and he'll be like, "Here's all my cards, and here's all my stuff." And I walked up to him
Non-professionally.
one time and I said, "Draw me a pancreas," and he's like,
Now, this is your job?
This is what I get paid for freelance.
Oh, okay.
So you would have a good grasp on all anatomy.
"Yeah."
That would not be your weakness.
Yeah.
But you like the cartoony.
I do comic work, and I'm trying to get started on that. So I'm trying to suss out a style.
So one tip. Looks like she only has one leg.
I know.
Even if it's bent,
Yeah.
you want to at least show the knee, maybe the tip of the foot coming from foreshortening.
Right.
Foreshortening is a huge thing. And again, if you don't know how to foreshorten, have somebody take a picture of you in the pose you want to draw, like an arm coming out like that. You'll see that the shoulder will be really small and it gets bigger.
I see that there's a great tutorial actually up on YouTube right now for it, using like a spiral technique to show you how to.
One thing I'll recommend too is line weight. Because this
Yeah.
is great where you've got the thin lines in the middle and then you've got the darker outlines, some of the more, but like this one here, it's all the same line width.
Yeah.
Line width is important. Whenever you look at comics, you're not going to see unique line widths that are static throughout the thing. It's all going to be different
This
or
is similar
darker.
to that subject.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Well, like this up
Like
here,
here you
the
got-
shading in the head is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
The shading
Yeah,
in the head
here's
here
you
is
got nice
awesome.
line work though.
Oh my
Because
God.
As far
again-
as on these baby faces?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's nice.
There's depth.
That's on Illustrator.
But then as you go down, it
Something
flattens out a little bit. Because there's not really a lot of dark
Does everybody
shadow
here do
or
their work
line weight.
digitally, or does anybody like actually put pencil to paper?
That's
And
pencil
That's
to
all I
paper.
do.
This is great. See what I mean about the line weights and
Yeah.
the different separating? That's awesome. And the posing is really good. The other thing about drawing is posing.
another stippler.
A lot of people draw straight on.
Hey, that's one of my big things. I do stippling
you
all
need
the
to-
time.
That's pen on paper, though.
Yeah.
Change it up and draw dynamically.
He gets on my case, but I really like. I use stippling for shadow
Yeah,
and
another one.
for detail. all
So you've
the
got the
time.
little bitty thin lines for
When you
detail,
get a
and they
chance,
thicken
come
up
over
here,
to
and then
my
they thicken up
table
on the outside.
upstairs
That's
or
awesome.
downstairs, whatever, and I'll show you. I do that too.
Totally have a stipple session.
These are great. This is what I do. This is what I do when I scribble. Same thing.
Yeah.
I just scribble all over the place.
Right.
I do the
Do you have any other full pages?
no. That's the third reiteration. I'm
I like
trying
this
to
Black,
Oh, really?
I like this Black Panther in the dark. This is really good.
That's awesome. And he's eating
There's
licorice.
stuff
Yeah.
There's like
Jelly
because-
beans.
Oh,
Is this
Yeah.
your own character?
Yeah.
You need to do like a cartoon or
Yeah.
this. You need to have a book.
Yep.
I would buy
have,
that.
I have a 14-page story all laid out, and I'm just really struggling.
There's
with,
foreshortening here. That's awesome.
Yeah. With
Yeah,
style.
My one and only comment on this page would be change your angles a little bit more extreme.
Okay.
Okay, because I mean this is great as far as showing time and everything, but if you had had it where it was more of an upshot of the young girl looking up
Okay.
here, that would explain her looking up in this
Oh, wow.
in this panel.
I like
Okay.
that.
Then this, and this, and this is good for for time, but then I would change the angle again because if you look, it's a lot of almost looking straight on shots.
Yeah.
Instead of moving that camera around.
you know, something that would work on this page that would be really good is eliminate the panel border. You've
Yeah.
already got your sectioned off. You could actually have continued this up to about here, maybe spread the colors behind the panels and go right off the page.
Mhm.
And it would give you panels are just to separate the scenes. But there are times when you don't need the borders itself. And
Open borders can actually lead you on to that
This is
next
awesome.
page.
and I like
Scribbling.
bleed over
Just
when
the
it
rough
comes.
pencils. Sometimes you think your pencils are better than your inks. If you
Yeah.
use Photoshop
These
at
are
all,
very unique.
you can
I like
actually
these a
draw
lot.
your tight pencils
So
that you
I'm-
really like
I'm-
and scan them into Photoshop
big on
and darken
changing
them
up your
instead
angles.
of doing any ink
Okay.
work.
The best way to
That's another
remember is you're the director
Yes.
of this little film. You know what I'm saying? You're the James Cameron
Those are awesome.
of this
I
movie.
have nothing to show.
So just
Oh,
take your camera and go nuts
have a
with it.
nice
Bring it in,
hat.
bring it out, bring it up, bring it down. I love I'm terrible as far as I love upshots.
Take your
'Cause
favorite.
that's a powerful thing.
Here's a
You get
tip.
that big upshot going
Here's a
on.
tip for camera angles. Watch your favorite movie.
Yeah.
Pause every time the frame changes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And take stills. If you've got a computer, take a screenshot and take them all and see how the cameraman and the what's the word I'm
Director?
looking for? No, the guy that
Cinematographer?
Director of
Cinematographer.
photography.
And do that for each frame, and then look how they
be
bring it
careful
out.
with it for animation because they'll send it to a house.
Right.
And then the house will just sit there and have like 50 whatever kids working on it. And
Yeah,
it'll be
always
all
use
the
a
same.
real movie.
I was gonna say most of these are just kind of like little scribbles.
Well, I'm going to talk about you now.
Okay,
So-
okay,
so
so
I walk-
you've seen.
I walked over to Ed, and Ed was doing just
This is
headshots.
wild. This is a great character that you've got to continue
Yeah, it's
on
awesome. Ed was just doing headshots.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I said to Ed, I want this character, Pris, bubblegum Crisis, I want her in her hard suit. I don't want just her face. So I did it. And how many times had you done that before?
Pris, I've never done before.
Any body, like a body like that.
I'd say maybe 3 times out of 10.
Okay, so minimally.
Yeah.
But it's a great drawing. But I didn't push you. I pushed you because I wanted that drawing, but I pushed you because I saw all you did was headshots. I wanted something different. And if you bring that, like I said, to shows, people will snap that up. They might like headshots, but they love body shots more. Even bust, just from here up.
Dynamic.
Yes, not even dynamic, just show.
So yours is downstairs actually waiting
Oh, all
for
right.
you.
So if you go downstairs to Ed's table, you can see the Pris.
But I do have,
So these are Ed's headshots.
like, this is one I was actually working on yesterday.
Right. Now,
You like
that's a
working
perfect
with
example of working on your line weights.
That's
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I had just gotten the
Oh, really?
lines
If
down.
you have
I
a,
can't
if
ink
you
to
bring
save my
over a
life. I do
sketch for me,
pencils and I hand it off
I'll
to
ink
inkers.
it.
I
And
don't-
show
I
you.
don't-
I'll show you about the
I'm
line
mostly
weights.
an inker.
I'll
I'm
actually
really
ink one of your
years,
pieces and show you.
so-
Well, I would say Tim actually told me to draw him, so I was going to work on that this afternoon.
Is this a serious character or more of a humor style character? Would you say
bit of both.
a bit of both?
Actually,
I
you know
would
what?
pay you for a con sketch. Seriously.
Yeah.
Really?
If you do it for me this weekend, I'll pay you for it.
I'm here for just today, so
Well.
I mean, I I don't have my pens on me, but I do have a pencil. So.
You can use mine.
There you
Okay.
go.
I have a pad of art paper
I
at
would-
the table.
I would turn this, seriously, I would turn these 3 pages here into a nice 3-channel Peanuts style,
Yeah. Or even
strip.
prints.
Yeah.
Prints.
you know, strip.
They're all part of the same story.
Really?
I think
Well,
you.
for the most part.
So I think you should have a goal for next
If I
year.
flip really
Yeah.
fast, will it look like they're moving?
You should have a goal for next year
Yeah.
to be at this show, not go to this show.
Yeah.
Get a table
Yep.
Okay.
and sell prints
The best thing, I have
because your work's amazing.
a book that I put out. It's
Who else
based
got
on
stuff to see?
Same for you, prints.
I do actually at the table. The front book that's on the
Yeah.
table is print stuff.
Oh.
I have a book
And the
that I
back
put
the
out
back
that's
book
based
is
on
the actual
characters
original
that I
artwork, and then I have 11 by 14.
Working
that's
on
up.
other people's characters is great, but if you've got something that you've created
Yeah.
and your style, you push it. And
Yeah.
the reason why is because, just like I was told years ago by an older pro, in times of no work, make your own work. And I gotta say, I get hired for work maybe about 15 times a year. And I try to do as many jobs as I can. I just got hired to do a Santa Claus trading card set. The two of us just got done doing Doctor Who card set and book. And with what we do, there's a hollow point, So I'll draw a sketch cover or draw something for myself or work on a book. But if you got it, market it, make it yours, and push it. And that's where you don't need a critique. That's where you use your style. That's where your confidence exudes from
Yeah.
every pore of your being. Because
But
look
your
at how
work is
silly.
still, your work's still going to improve,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're going to be pushing yourself
Exactly. Look
instead
at the
of somebody
beginning
else pushing at you.
Look at the beginning of this the Simpsons when they were on the Tracy
Tracy Ullman show.
Yeah.
And then look at how it moved
Yeah.
into what it is now.
Yeah.
And if my best example, and then I'm going to shut up for good, but my best
No, you
example is look at the original Archie stuff. Go all the way back. Dark Horse has these beautiful books based on the original Archies. But look at the original Archie stuff. Look at how it's emerged and progressed over time. Then hop over the fence and look at the way John Byrne drew the Archie stuff.
Or Norm Brayfogle.
And Norm Brayfogle and Stan Goldberg and on and on and on. Beautiful tellings of the same story, same schlock,
Yep.
same everything. They're basically like Christian comics. They're silly, but it's amazing what they get away with small small lines, small detail, line weight, and the passion that they put into it. It progresses as you progress, and it sells good. Some people are like, "Oh my God, I love the original Archie because it's like a newspaper strip, and it's just so funnily drawn and on and on and on."
I read the original Archie.
They're great. The original Peanuts, Charles Schultz.
Yep.
I was going to say, watch his progression from the day it was,
Yeah, oh,
what
yeah.
was it, little kids or something?
Little
like that?
kids.
Little kids?
You see, yeah,
Charlie Brown looked like a
the
potato.
anthology
Yeah.
book that they have is great for that because you can, like I said, you can see from the
Yeah,
very
you
beginning.
see the progression of Schultz's style, and these
Yeah.
are his own characters,
He didn't
so.
even bring in Snoopy until about 20 or 25 panels or excuse me, strips later.
Yeah.
And I had worked on a piece where I had put Charlie Brown in a bubble and put Snoopy in a bubble next to him the way they were originally drawn. And people were like, well, it kind of looks like Snoopy. It's like, no, that was the way Snoopy was drawn in the beginning. But it was amazing. His own progression was amazing. He was his own teacher.
Yeah.
And all the Peanuts were kids that he knew and things that he saw as an adult, as a father, and as a child with other kids. And then he picked up more and more and more. And look at Garfield. Garfield is literally a mimic of the way the Peanut style was. Blobbish, potato, all the way to refinement and movies.
Right. So how did you guys get into drawing? Did you go
I
to
had a
school?
very lonely childhood.
Did you? No, I'm saying, did you go to school before you went professional?
I took one professional course. Mostly it was all self-taught. The funniest thing is I ended up going back to college to get my degree, and you had to take an art class for it. It's the only class through my entire college career that I failed. So, and that's because they would set up like a still life of boxes, draw that still life, and I would end up turning it into a comic book panel. It'd be Thor flying over the city, and that's not what we asked for. Well, yeah, that's what I saw when I looked at it.
I use it as a background.
Yeah.
How about you?
Believe it or not, I was in high school and I started doing mechanical drawing. And I thought, I was like, this is a screw, and you got like the lines going to it, and all the perfect textures and all that one. And kind of like him, I embellished on what I did, and I would draw like a little radio in the background. The screw goes in that hole, and blah blah blah. And I'd use ink pens and whatever, and I just enjoyed. I was collecting and reading comics since I was 6. I mean, just more than like normal kids. Like to me, it was like hoarding quarters or hoarding dollar bills or something, and I went nuts over it. But I was incredibly lucky to break in, to actually get a professional job. I got my first professional job when I was 13, and that was like a huge highlight. And
you sleep in the halls.
So how did you get started?
Well, I've been drawing for 42 years. Started when I was 5. I drew a Kurt Swan Superman from his comic book. Professionally, 26 years ago, somebody asked me to do a mascot for a Christian nursery school. So I did that, and then eventually, actually I started when I was 12, because kids used to pay me $1 to draw superheroes for them. And then I used to in turn give those dollars to my friend who drew better superheroes than I did. He'd draw me superheroes. So that was my first professional work. But the caricatures 20 years ago, I was just bored at another
An
job.
art dealer as a young child.
There you go.
Yeah. I was bored at a job, so I drew myself. And then at a convention, I was bored again because I was in the back corner, no one was paying me for anything. My stuff I was selling, so I just started drawing myself. I took an X-Men card, I drew the whole card, full color, with my face. And a guy next to me at his table had his son come over for a picture, and then he got one, and then a girl saw it, and then I had to line out the door the rest of the day, and I didn't even sell anything. I just drew all day. And at the end of the show, the guy said, "How much for your stuff?" And I said, "What thing?" And he said, "Everything." And I said, $600, so he hands me 6 brand new $100 bills and says, "You should be drawing at these things, not selling this crap." And I've been doing it ever since. So yeah, if people are wanting to buy your art now, you're very humble. You can tell. You are too. But I've bought your art, I'm drawing your art, and I'd love to buy art from you, so there's a little bit of confidence
And
for
you definitely
your work is
have to develop
very
that.
nice.
You have to develop that.
Yeah. Because I would buy a comic with that character.
I would
That's
too.
so
I
awesome.
would too. Inspiration is like a giant thing. Whatever inspired you to put that together, that's what you need to do.
So in the last 10 minutes, we want to do some Q&A. If you guys have any questions, I think we covered a wide gambit of things.
I never liked that character.
Yeah. No?
But he has the X.
Who brought the cards?
Yeah, but he smokes. So yeah.
He what?
He smokes. Yeah.
So did Logan until they said, "Oh no, we can't have that anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah, but why
So
did
did
they
Ben Grimm.
why did they take Logan's cigar away from him?
It's to try to not influence children.
Well, I started working with Upper Deck doing sketch cards, and one of the rules was Howard the Duck always has to wear pants because you can't have a pantsless duck.
Thank you,
Nobody could smoke, no one can drink. So the Thing, Wolverine, and various other Nick Fury could not have cigars hanging out of their mouth. We did not fight the Nazis during World War II. I'm just letting you know right now. There's a whole bunch of Germans that are going. We fought Hydra during World War
And
II.
AIM.
And what's that?
And AIM,
And
Advanced Idea Mechanics.
yes,
That's it.
and that was the big thing. So now they can sell cards into Germany, and you're not allowed to show like the Iron Cross and blah 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 blah. You're not allowed to show
I couldn't
any.
sell that Captain America print there if I was there.
Right. You can't sell anything that has any Christian or whatever iconography, no crosses in the background, no Jesus handing bread to somebody or blah, blah, blah. They made it to the point where the cards are just the heroes in an action pose, spandex, the end. And I find them so boring, but it's,
As well as in complete denial of history.
yeah. I feel like, I don't know if you guys read any of the mainstream comics like Marvel, DC, Image, but I kind of find that, like with the new 52 and whatever, they completely, I mean, think about it. You know Captain America for 75 years, and then all of a sudden, he's a new guy. He just started yesterday. You know, forget about World War II. He was in Iraq, you know, and whatever, you
It's
know.
fun to do that with new characters, like with characters everybody, like Guardians of the Galaxy and
Right.
like And what got me into comics was Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor on Power Girl.
They're great.
You're so young.
I met them.
Yeah.
I met them
And
last
Jimmy's a nice
weekend.
guy.
They were
And
the
you know who's also
sweetest.
nice is Peter Palmiotti. Is
Peter's
very nice.
great.
Yeah.
I worked
Peter's
with
great.
him on one little thing, one very tiny little
Yeah.
thing, but he's a nice guy.
My first comic was in 1970. I don't even think your parents were out of high school then.
Yeah.
Peter's great. And we have this affliction for coffee.
Yeah.
Every morning he's always like, more coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you guys don't have any questions, thank you.
What was
Thank
your
you.
first?
I tend to think of stuff later on, so I'll
Feel
probably
free
end
to,
up
like I said,
poking you
feel free to
guys.
stop by and chat.
Oh yeah.
Well,
My
how-
first comic that got
I
published.
guess I got questions on marketing.
Oh,
You gotta
that's-
come to the. You
Well-
gotta come to the one that we
Free-
do.
free
Free
to
to
fee,
fee.
yeah.
That's where we're
Yeah,
definitely
that's-
talking
okay.
about that.
The reason is because I do a lot of charity work, and I do a lot of work like, oh, the publisher wants you to just draw something, but he can't afford to pay you, and blah blah blah. I've been I don't want to say successful, but I've been good with people to show them how to do free things, charity work,
And turn it into
whatever, turn it into paying work,
Right.
or turn it into paying projects. And it's important to know what you do is yours
Yep.
until it's theirs, until it's yours again. And it doesn't have to do with just rights. It has to do with a lot of liability and
Right.
what we discussed here, like confidence and whatever. But it's a really important thing.
That's
It's
about
not.
3 hours.
Yeah, that's right.
So 3 pieces of advice. First of all, once you draw something, it's copyrighted. Not legally, but if you've got 90 days if someone, and that's from when someone tries to steal your work, not from when you drew it. So once you find out someone's using, you have 90 days to copyright your work. What I do is I make up characters, I seal it up in an envelope, and I mail it to myself with a signature.
Poor man's copy.
And then I save it. I don't open it. So it's got a date and a time when it was done. Second thing, Facebook. Make a fan page for Facebook and post all your art on it, whatever, and then ask us to link to you. And I've got 1,650 friends. 350 I'm personal friends with. So all of them. Plus, I also go public when I do sketches. So when I link you, everyone that looks at my stuff is going to see your stuff.
Yeah.
Also, free web pages. There's plenty of sites where you can do a free web page. Just make a web page.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
because
Photo Bucket and
it
all
does.
these other
I know
ones.
like a
Is
lot of the stuff
Photobucket
that I
still
do.
active anymore?
yeah,
Yes.
I use them all the
Is
time.
that your card?
Yep.
Now, your feelings on like posting to places like DeviantArt or Tumblr, things like that.
I don't want to say anything bad about DeviantArt. DeviantArt is
I
a
love
nice place.
DeviantArt.
My
DeviantArt's
only,
awesome.
My only problem with DeviantArt is that the guy who does the legal part for DeviantArt, a lot of times what they'll do is he'll say one thing, and there's nothing against any of them. This is the way business is. This is what one person does, is what the other person does, same hand. But he'll tell you, about rights and liabilities and blah, blah, blah. But on the other side, you could draw Batman, and thank you very much. You could draw Batman, and then somebody could go up and buy a print of yours or whatever, and a certain kind of marketing that's involved. There's licensing and there's liability that goes along with it. But he'll preach that it's like push your own characters and do this, and you're allowed to do this. DeviantArt is geared towards. It's kind of like it's like the Louvre. It's a free museum of ideas and concepts that you could push. Because I see a lot of photography and a lot of here's my sculpture and here's my
I've been on
custom figures.
I've been on DA for 9 years. I've never once had anybody message me about any image I posted, copyrighted or not.
Yeah,
so you
so
will
I
not
have-
have a problem.
No.
Yeah, I've got 7 years with them.
You will not have a problem.
I just get a little worried because I see the direction that some of the companies are going in now. Years ago, they would say, "Don't draw any more stuff." Then Quesada came out at Marvel and said, "We want people to enjoy the Marvel experience. If you go to a convention, we would like it if you got a Ghost Rider picture and blah blah blah, and we would like you to support the people that worked on our books at one time or another." And DC was like, "Batman." I mean, what are they going to say? Let's stop the guy from drawing Winnie the Pooh. I mean, you're going to get it whether you get it or at a show or you get it online or whatever. And there's a certain kind of licensing. You draw it, it's an original. Okay? I don't care what anybody says, it's an original. If I draw Batman on the back of this piece of paper and I hand it to you, that's original. I'm not mass marketing it. I'm not making 5,000 copies.
Right.
I'm not claiming I own it. I don't even have to put owned by DC. It's an original and it's yours. And if you want to resell it, that's your property. That's like garage sale. You can do whatever you want to do with that. Rip it in half if you want to do that too. Here, I'm selling Batman's ass. But the thing is that if that's what you do, that's what you do. And you're not mass marketing. And a lot of times, I think you can go up to, is it 100 personal copies? I'm pretty sure, but
Under 150, wasn't it?
As long as you're not regularly marketing
Right.
sales of other people's characters, you'll
Right.
be fine.
and if you're somebody that does a print, you've got like a beautiful Elektra, let's say, or
Yeah.
Invisible Girl, and you draw it, and then you put prints out on the table. You might only sell 2 prints the whole day, and then something else, something else, something else, and then it's not like you sold 10,000 of
And
them.
nobody's going to bother you.
No. And if they do, play ball, you know?
Okay.
Hey, I'll get rid of,
I
I've
won't.
actually...
Yeah, I won't do that anymore.
Yeah, I've actually had it happen to me one time, just once in 40 years. I've got whatever, and they said, we would prefer it if. And I say, okay, hey, listen, respect, you know. I've got these left. I'll finish getting rid of these, and then I'll stop. And then I went home and I made 500 more and gave them out to everybody I know because I didn't really give a damn. But the thing is that you know, what are they? You know, what are they going to? At the end of the day, what are they going to accomplish by launching a $100,000 plus lawsuit for a $10 print?
And there are so many people doing. Every artist does prints of other people's characters. Everyone.
Yeah.
So you go to a convention.
It's when you can
find
start
50
selling.
different artists.
It's
that
when
all
you can
have
start selling
Supermans,
prints of your
Batmans,
own
Spider-Mans.
art characters and everything.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And that brings about something else when it comes to style, something I didn't mention before, and just 1 second on this. Sketchbooking, something that's very important. I told this to him just yesterday, we were talking about this. Take your artwork, find some of your best panels, find some of your best stuff. Make an ash can. This is my work. This is Ed's sketchbook.
Yeah.
Put it on there, you know, put a little interview on it. Hey, I started artwork, you know, I was in my garage and whatever the hell. You know, I was a tattoo artist and blah, blah, blah. And have the interview go across a couple of pages. Put your pictures there. Like your medical illustrations are amazing. And on and on and on and on. Your headshots, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter if it belongs to another company. You're showing your
Interpretation
art,
of it.
your interpretation. Very good. And that I would put that out. And the way you get away with doing a sketchbook like that, the way you have the confidence in it, is you have it there and you leave a blank copy of a blank page on the back. And you say, you know, sketch or autograph or whatever.
Right.
You tell people the book is $5, and if you'd like a sketch, it's $8 or $10 or whatever you want to do. You're personalizing the book. You just gave them a personalized,
Right.
one-of-a-kind book. And that's important.
Or if you're new, don't charge for the sketch. Do like a free head
Right.
sketch in the back if they buy the sketchbook, and you just scribble something out.
Every
Yeah.
time I'm at a convention when
So,
somebody buys
sell the
one
head
of my...
sketch.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
$5 head
that's
sketch.
right.
You put it on the back of your book, but it's your sketchbook.
Right, right.
It's like free with the purchase.
And you might
Yeah.
think your artwork is, I don't like it, but people will look at your artwork and go, oh my God, that's amazing, because they can't do that. And our art is in the eye of the beholder. You might think it's bad, but the people buying it might not. So just throw it out there.
How many popular artists like a Dali have scribbled, Salvador Dali, just
Yeah.
a little scribble, and it's gonna sound funny. Christopher Columbus, who was a very big artist, he used to do basketball prints and whatever for the NBA and whatever. He would take his prints and he would do what was called a remark, and he would sign his name, and then he'd put a number, and then he'd draw like a little basketball in the corner, and that made that print stand out over anybody else's. Or he'd draw a net, or who's your favorite player, blah blah. Okay, number 22, and whatever. And it you know, but personalization is you know, was a key to that. You guys should all have a sketchbook. It could even be you're a writer. You know, you could even document your podcasts and your video casts and whatever, and show frames and say, I've talked to this person, this is what they said, blah blah blah, like a news thing. This is a sketchbook of what we do. You know, that's a personalization. You both are good with what you do. You'll mature over time. no matter what we say, you'll go in your own direction. It's like plants will grow towards the sun. You'll do what you do in a mature fashion, and confidence. You've got to have confidence. Like my old coach used to say, "Put hair on your chest." Well, don't do that. But
of course, later on, his coach was also arrested. So.
Can I ask?
Well, confidence is what got me down to DC.
27.
I just called
33.
them.
That's right.
We talked about this.
I don't
earlier.
believe that. I don't believe that.
What?
So I started drawing caricatures 20 years ago, and like I said, go down and look at my banner, and you see the progression. In another 20 years, I'll be 67. How much more will I improve in 20 more years?
Or how will you find a new way to do what you do?
Right.
And explore that.
So when you think, so the basic thing is, if you think that your talent is not good now or you're not good enough, think about how much better you're going to be in 20 years. And now 20 years ago, I go, oh my God, 20 years ago, and if you say, well, I can't learn that, it's too hard. 20 years, I'm sure you can learn it.
Let's say I know something that a lot of people have actually recommended to me, and I've done it recently. I took a picture that I drew like a year ago, and I redid it.
Yeah.
Just to see how much change there's been.
Throwback Thursday.
I have my original caricatures that I ever did. I've got 7 of them, and 3 of them were Picard, Deanna Troi, and Picard and Riker. So I'm going to redraw them, and then I'm going to do that.
That's so cool.
Just whatever you do, don't look at that old piece
No.
as you're drawing it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Say,
put it
okay,
aside.
I'm going to redraw
Because
this character.
You'll force the effort, and
Yeah,
that's
no.
something you
Yeah.
should never do.
Yeah, like I took what I did is I took the original reference picture that I used a year ago,
Yep.
and I drew from that. And then
Yeah.
when I was done, I put the 2 of them together.
Yeah.
I was almost
But I'm just
sick.
saying, it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to redo, but I'm going to put it away. I know the character,
Right. Yeah.
draw it, and then bring this back out and go, wow, okay, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
You'll
real
be
wake up
amazed.
call.
And the maturity thing, it's just like what parents say. Teach a kid to talk, and they talk back. You teach a kid to walk, and they run. So you learn, you'll add it to your repertoire the same way you'll add brushes to a cup on your desk. You learn how to draw one thing, you'll start doing another. It doesn't mean you forgot how to ride a bicycle, it just means now you can ride a motorcycle. And you'll keep going.
Oh, I love that analogy. That's awesome.
It works.
You need to write that down. And put that on
But
Don't encourage him. Next, he'll publish a book.
all the pages will be blank except for that one quote. Just take it.
Thank you very much.
Next question.